Hi, I'm Una Mannion, and I'm going to read from my debut novel, A Crooked Tree, published by Faber and Faber this past January. I'm going to read. I'm going to read two pieces, and the first piece is from the opening chapter, and is sort of the catalyst event in the book. A family of six, the mother and the five kids, are driving home. It's the last day of school before the summer holidays, and the kids are squabbling in the back, and the mother's getting increasingly frustrated and makes a decision to do something. And just a little bit of background: the father has died 2 years previously. The car skidded into the shoulder right where 252 crossed the turnpike. Out, get out. My mom said it with her voice low, which let us know she meant it. Ellen reached across Thomas, opened the back door, and started to climb out. You can't leave her here, Marie said. She started to gather her bag from the floor of the front. Ellen was standing on the gravel verge of the overpass in her school pinafore, tennis shirt, and knee socks. Marie was opening her door when my mother threw the car into gear and accelerated forward. I looked back. Ellen was facing away from us, looking down over the bridge where columns of cars funneled along the turnpike. Mom, don't, please, Thomas said, but she didn't answer. We sped up 252 into the national park and then turned west toward Valley Forge Mountain. Ahead of us, the sun had fallen below the fields. We were still 5 or 6 miles from home. I hadn't said anything to make my mother stop. We careened down the road, went through the covered bridge, past farmland and fences. Beside us, the shadows of dogwoods blurred in the dark as my mother kept driving, each tree hemmed in a halo of white where the bracts had fallen. And I'm just going to read from a place a little bit further on. The kids have grown up working with their father. He landscapes. He's an Irish immigrant, and before he died, when they were young, they'd go out working with him. This is a little bit later in the book, and the narrator is just remembering a day. I remembered a day at the Cat Ladies when we were working with my dad. She lived in an old Victorian-style house with at least 40 cats. My dad had looked after her garden for over 15 years, since before I was born. She'd been trying to sell the house for a long time, and a few summers ago, it had finally sold, even with all the cats hanging around, lying on counters and sitting in sinks. When she was moving, she hired my father to do some work inside, pulling up carpets and taking old furniture to the dump. Marie, Thomas, and I all went to help with the job. It was late July and hot, well into the 90s. We'd peeked through her windows before to look at the cats, but had never been inside. The heat and stench were stifling. The ammonia from the cat pee burned our eyes. We choked and the air squeezed out of my lungs. It was a 3-story house and the cats had been everywhere. To make matters worse, she turned off the air conditioning. The mean bitch, Marie muttered. We started on the 3rd floor where it was hottest and tried to pull out the small carpet nails at the edges. Dad told us to go back to the truck and get gloves. The fumes were in my mouth and throat. When we rolled up the first carpet, which was damp, the floorboards were rotten underneath. Get out of the house and wash your hands and faces at the spigot. Get the soap in the truck, Dad told us. Thomas, you stay with me. He said that the odor would never come out. The new owners would have to take up the floorboards. Marie and I sat outside for hours, saying very little, but Dad and Thomas finished the work alone, carrying rolled up rotten carpets and heaving them into the back of the truck. Thomas worked intently, staggering under the weight and smell, never wanting to let my father down. He was 14. I sat on the curb with Marie and looked over the garden that my father had planted for the cat lady years earlier. That year's tomatoes were ripe and red on their vines against her deck. Dad had canes supporting them with soft string so as not to damage the tender stalks. The cat lady had a Venus de Milo statue in the garden, a naked woman about as high as my hip with missing arms. Marie walked over and kicked her to the ground and came back and sat next to me on the curb. Her face was dirty and streaked. Fucking people think they know something about culture, she said. Thank you very much. Thanks.